The next big thing that I had kind of an issue with were the parts that they give you to kind of supplement the metal. All of these laser cut wood parts. Yes, laser cut wood. In the instructions, it will tell you cut acrylic. That is not the case. In the Rev B model that I got, all of these black parts here are laser cut wood. It's good and bad. The acrylic can crack. These are a little more durable and can bend a little bit. But on the negative side, they smell like a forest fire. They get soot everywhere. Your hands will be covered in black stuff by the time you're done. And they don't quite seem to line up great. I mean, these bolts are barely holding on here. It doesn't give you nearly enough of the washers to actually help you. In fact, in the whole kit, you get 8 of them. Well, the instructions only tell you to use 2, but you don't know that if you don't put it all aside ahead of time. The other main issue with these, and the thing that really will drive you crazy, is that they are not the same thickness as the cut acrylic, or at least that's not how it appears to be. They'll tell you to use an M3x8 screw, and hopefully it'll go all the way through and mount into your T-nuts on there. No, it will not. I had to sand again and cut down some screws and make them work. In other cases, you couldn't do that. They were rare parts, like on the extruder here. You can see what I did. I actually had to carve out some of the wood there so that these would match up, because these go directly into the motor. They're a very specific size, and I barely have, 2 or 3 turns on the threads in there, and there should be at least double that. I'm not any kind of machinist, but I'm telling you, this is kind of an oversight that I wasn't happy about. And some of these other parts have it here, especially the ones that hold the bed on. And the other ones I just had to use different size bolts in there because they weren't going to reach no matter what. So you've got it all together. Great. I can't think of anything that's really difficult aside from the fact that they don't really tell you where to run the wires or anything, so it kind of made it up. They don't actually have anything in the instructions on how to use those little black flat pieces that push into the grooves on here, but you kind of figure it out. That leads us to our next big tip. Use the pictures. Inside of that Google Drive directory that they give you, there are probably 100 pictures. Look at them, study them, use them, but remember that you have a Rev B and it's not going to match up 100%, except for the pictures that make a double appearance in the manual builder's guide and in the file as well. But they can be your biggest ally, and they will be, because there are a lot of iffy parts in the build as to which direction something goes, especially one being these end stops here. It's an L shape, one side's thinner than the other. Real quick, the thinner side goes with the T-nuts. The thicker side does not. If you do it the other way, it won't quite line up on one hole. You'll sit there sanding it, wondering what the hell you did wrong. But again, a few other things, your bills will sit a little sideways. Not too happy about that either, but it works. The end stops, they are an important part, but once you get them cranked in there, they're not going to really move. The wiring plays a big role in this too, and you're going to need some basic skills to kind of get past all of the nuances that can happen, that you'll come across in this kit. The main thing being that they expect you to do a lot of soldering, at least more than I would have expected. All in all, you're probably soldering, 10 to 12 joints, or I don't know what you want to call them, connections in wires. You're doing a lot of cutting, you're doing a lot of wire stripping, putting into terminals. As you can see here, you have to wire that all up. And it's going to cause you to do some things that you really don't think you're supposed to. Case in point, you basically have to cut your own power cord. You take the power cord they give you, a perfectly good power source power cord, and you just cut the end right off. And if you've never done that, boy, is that going to make your brain hurt. Other things is they'll give you a part like your fan. Now the fan comes, it's a standard fan, and it comes with about a 1-foot cord on it with a plug on the end. Well, obviously this distance is more than a foot, so they just give you some extra wire and they tell you, okay, cut the connector off of there, solder the extra wire on, and then, oh yeah, in another bag there is a wire. And this wire is basically an extension of another wire that can go onto your board. And you have to cut the end off of that and then graft that on. Boy, making sure you don't cut the wrong one is a big deal too, so be ready for that. Now, getting it all wired in, like I said, a big challenge, especially when The directions can be a little hard to read. If you need help, let me know. I'll try to help you, but it's not fun. I mean, it's what you would expect with a kit like this. Read it, read everything twice, check everything twice. There is a step in there. It says you're going to need to use your multimeter to go ahead and test the stepper motor's power supply, or I think it's just the current that comes out of it. But it doesn't make much sense because it's actually testing volt. Well, I guess it could make sense then. But it's been a long time since I've done any kind of circuit board work, so this was kind of an eye-opener. Now, you may think you don't need to do this, but let me tell you, you do. I went under there and it tells you in the directions where to go and where to put your nodes and everything, but probes, sorry. But it's very small gap, it's a very tight space, and if you slip off of there, it's gonna bite you. And I've seen a lot of testimonials online that say, hey, I slipped, I touched these two prongs together, or two connections together underneath, and now my board's fried. Well, that ATmega 2560, I think 2580-60, you can be replaced, but not very cheaply. And I think, you know, a $60 to $80 range on that is what I found when I looked for a different printer. But be ready for that. You do need to do it. All of my voltages were about 0.625 volts, and they need to be 0.35 and 0.55. So be ready for that. I spent a lot of time doing that. I got it right. Is it right? I think so. Whether or not I did it right, I don't know. I have nothing to test that against.